What is going on, people? Mark from Double Quattro Reviews here. Thank you so much again for tuning in for another review video. Today I am here with the 2018 Audi RS3. This feisty little guy has a 2.5 liter inline 5-cylinder making 400 horsepower at 5,800 RPMs and 354 pound-feet of torque at just 1,700 RPMs. In a car that only weighs 3,600 pounds and has a wheelbase of only 103.6 inches, that's a lot of horsepower and torque in a small package like this. And that power gets delivered to these Pirelli P0 performance tires via a 7-speed, dual-clutch, shiftable, automatic transmission and Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive. According to Car and Driver, this Audi RS3 does 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. That's crazy, and has a governed top speed of 155 miles an hour. And that's not even considering the fantastic handling characteristics of this Audi RS3. That is some serious performance for only 400 horsepower. And just because you have all of that power and performance in this little package doesn't mean that you get terrible fuel economy either. It's rated for 19 miles per gallon in the city, 28 miles per gallon on the highway, and 22 miles per gallon average overall. To me, those are pretty respectable fuel economy numbers given the fact that all you have to do is stomp the throttle and you go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So this awesome little Audi has been lent to me for the morning by Tasca Ford of Seekonk, located here at 200 Fall River Avenue in Seekonk, Massachusetts. This dealership has been truly awesome to work with. They have great customer satisfaction ratings as well, and they have over 250 vehicles in stock on their lot. They have tons of stuff right now. Come check them out if you're in the South Coast, Massachusetts area. I will put all of their links and contact information in the description below. Starting off with the exterior styling of the Audi RS3, Audis are just overall great looking cars in my opinion. I might be a little bit biased based on my own personal taste. However, I think most people agree that Audis are just good looking, and the RS3 is no exception. We have these angry looking LED headlights atop of this massively aggressive and wide open front grille to suck in all that air to power this turbocharged inline 5-cylinder engine. Pretty much all of the angles on this car just look super sharp. The side profile has the signature Audi stance with that hard body line, just looks fantastic. The proportions are great. It's just a very handsome car all around. Coming around to the side of the RS3, we have 19-inch wheels with these 9.25-inch wide performance tires. Now, these specific wheels aren't my favorite looking ones in the RS3. I think I like the other ones that you can get on the RS3 a little bit better. But this RS3 does come with the Dynamic Plus package from Audi, which is a $4,800 option that gets you carbon ceramic brakes, and they just look absolutely menacing up front. However, you don't get carbon ceramic brakes in the back. I don't know why Audi did that. I guess that's not the worst thing in the world given the fact that on pretty much any vehicle, most of your braking is accomplished by the front brakes anyway, roughly about 60 to 70%, I'd say. However, if I'm paying $4,800, I think I would like carbon ceramics in the back as well, don't you think? And of course, we do have that weird little plastic piece that's tacked on and sticks out just a little bit in both of the rear wheel wells. They only stick out maybe just 1 centimeter, but they are placed there at the port when these cars come over from Germany by Audi to meet our US road regulations. I guess these tires in the back are just a little bit too wide for this bad boy, so they place those there to meet our regulation requirements. Coming around to the rear of the Audi RS3, we have these absolutely massively huge dual exhaust tips surrounded by that diffuser. I think the diffuser and the little ducktail spoiler look great, but I'm not quite sure how I feel about the exhaust tips. I know they are a distinct look for the RS series of the Audi, which I think is special, and that's something that has to be mentioned. However, you can see if you look inside them, they're really just fake tips. They're not truly that large all the way through. Either way, you cannot deny that the exhaust tips are distinct and pretty menacing looking, and this exhaust also sounds absolutely fantastic. I've never driven a 5-cylinder turbo before, but this one sounds absolutely amazing. Audi did not disappoint. Take a listen to a couple of revs. All right, now climbing into the driver's seat where you want to be in the Audi RS3. The first thing that you notice when you open the door when it's dark enough out, I know you can't see it now very well because it's daytime, but check this out. I'm going to show it on my arm. There's a little puddle lamp here that says Audi Sport with the little red hash. It's very neat that they put color in there. I like that touch. Very nice, very luxurious feel. Next, coming along to the seat, I mean, these seats are absolutely gorgeous. The quilted stitching looks incredible. They are beefy, bolstered well. They look fantastic. I absolutely love them. Truly luxury car status right here. What's interesting though is that these seats are actually only manually adjustable. You do not get power seats in the Audi RS3, which I honestly don't mind. I mean, yeah, sure, some people are gonna complain about that, but honestly, to me, I'd rather save the weight than have a power seat. That's just my own personal opinion. You do get power lumbar support though, I will say. So that's a nice touch. Now we'll climb on into the RS3. My first impression, this car obviously reminds me a lot of my grandmother's 2019 A5 that I reviewed a couple of years ago, with some distinct material differences, like all of this carbon fiber all around the interior, as well as this Alcantara, and obviously the quilted stitching in the seats. The steering wheel is a D-shaped or flat bottom steering wheel. It feels incredible, looks absolutely awesome. We also have Audi's virtual cockpit. Of course, I went over that in greater detail in the A5 review if you want to see more of that. We also have a little boost gauge here. This is aftermarket for this car. And if you look at the climate control vents, these are pretty cool looking. They open and close, just turning them like that. Looking at our center screen, you can see it's pretty much the same thing as the A5. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I will say this is pretty cool that the A5 didn't have. You can push this button and the screen retracts. It also retracts and extends rather quickly, I will say. I think that is cool because if you want, you can put the screen down and have a more minimalistic look across the whole dash. If you don't want to look at the screen, that is a pretty nice touch. However, I do worry about the possibility of that screen possibly breaking in the future rather than a fixed one that's not going anywhere, obviously, but just something to note. We also have more carbon fiber and Alcantara on the doors. Each door has all of these finishes. Just looks absolutely incredible all around this interior. Moving down to this panel right here, we have our drive mode selector. I'm going to put the screen up and show you the different drive modes you can have. You can go into comfort, auto, dynamic, and individual. What's interesting about the RS3's individual mode is you can select all of these different aspects of what you want to change for your individual settings. If you want the engine and transmission in dynamic, but you want the engine sound to be in comfort, you can do that. That's all configurable in this drive mode setting. Next, I'd like to talk about the climate controls. Of course, they look sharp as you would expect. To turn them off, you just push this button and that cleans up the look. All of the lights turn off. Push the button to turn it back on, and as you can see, all the lights turn back on with the blue and red for the cold and hot, light right back up. Below that, we have a little USB port and a 12-volt outlet and 2 cup holders. Unfortunately, the cup holders aren't as useful as you would have hoped. I have my coffee mug right here, and I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to put this down here, and it just barely fits. I mean, and it kind of almost gets in the way of your climate controls and definitely gets in the way of your 12-volt outlet access right here. Not necessarily a big fan of that. They are better than the ones that were in the 2019 A5, but they're still not that great. If you have a bigger container, like I will show you, let's not break anything trying to pull that out. If you have a bigger container like my water bottle here, that's definitely not going to fit. Even if it fit width-wise, that's certainly not going to fit lengthwise. Now coming down to our gear lever, as you can see, it is an automatic transmission, of course, but it kind of has the look of a manual transmission. It kind of has the shaft with the ball on top with the leather boot, so to speak. Maybe Audi did that to give it more of an appearance that it was a manual transmission, or at least looked like it, to give you that facade feeling. I'm not quite sure, but nonetheless, that's the transmission lever you get. I actually prefer the one in the A5. I think it's a little bit sleeker, it's a little bit more minimalistic, and it's lower, so it's not this big old thing sticking out. But regardless, that's the setup we have in the RS3. We have our engine start and stop button right here. We also have our radio controls on the right, and in the center we have our touchpad controller with the dial. Below that we have our parking brake, and we have a center console with a little bit of storage space, not too bad. At least we do have a USB port and an aux jack in the front of it right there. What's also interesting about the center console slash armrest is you can lower it down and then pull it up, but then stop it, and it ratchets to the exact position that you left it in. So you can customize your armrest position. I really like that. Nice touch, Audi. You just open it up all the way and then put it all the way back down to set it to its original position. I'm just going to go over a few specific things with the Audi RS3's virtual cockpit. As you can see in the gauge cluster right here on the right, we have our power and torque outputs. And if you rev the engine a little bit, you can see that those increase with the RPMs. Very, very cool. You can also customize it by pushing this view button to change it from the predominantly speedometer and tachometer readout with the power and torque on the right and a little bit of the map on the left to a more broadened map view so you can see the entire navigation system if you're going somewhere unfamiliar. You can also zoom in and out all the way. If you go all the way out, you can zoom out literally all the way to see the entire Earth. I don't know if you'd really use that all that often, but still pretty cool feature nonetheless. The sunroof situation is also quite interesting in the Audi RS3. As you can see, you get a decent amount of glass, a lot of light comes through. Obviously, you just push this button as you would expect and it opens right up for you. You just have to hold it. I don't think you necessarily get gypped for how wide the sunroof opens. I'd say it's maybe about 1.5 feet. Definitely not more than that. The 2022 Camry I just did, that sunroof opened a pitiful amount. You barely got a foot when that thing was open. However, what I find most interesting about the Audi RS3, as you can see here, we have this little sunshade that you can pull forward. This is great because you can have the sunroof open if the weather permits, but you don't have to have the sun beaming down on you, scorching you. I love my sunshine, but I know some people just don't want to be pelted by the sun all day long. I think this is a great way to keep your sunroof open and hear that awesome exhaust note, but not have the sun beaming down on you all the time while you're driving. All right, coming on to the rear seats of the 2018 Audi RS3. One of the biggest complaints that I've heard from other journalists and just people in general is that there is minimal room in the back seats, and I have to agree. My leg room isn't that bad. I'm about 5'11", 6 feet, depending on how confident I feel that day. And I have the driver's seat where I would be sitting as if I were in the front, and my leg room is okay. The problem is the headroom. As you can see, I'm already hitting my head. I have to kind of like slouch forward like this to make sure my head doesn't hit the roof, but then now my legroom is compromised. If you're going to have even average adult size passengers in the rear seat of your car a lot, I'm not so sure if the Audi 3 chassis is going to be right for you. Children, however, though, as long as they're not too tall, will probably be fine. If you need more legroom and especially more headroom, that's what the other chassis are for, the A6, the A8, and especially the A8L. As far as rear seat amenities go, we have our climate control vents with 2 USB ports. We also have our back of the seat pouches. We also have the continuation of the Bang & Olufsen sound system in these rear doors, as well as the standard door cubbies that are quite small, honestly. We also have the center armrest that folds down, and if you push this slot right here, it reveals your 2 cup holders back here, which are actually far more useful than the cup holders in the front, if you believe that. Check this out. I have my coffee mug again, and fits perfectly. These little arms kind of widen out to fit the exact width of your cup. Wish Audi integrated that up front. Maybe right below the passenger side airbag like some of the old Subarus had, where you push the thing and this exact type of mechanism comes out. Why not do that, Audi? These even also fit my bigger water bottle. We also have this little storage compartment that folds up and the inside's finished with this soft carpet. Very nice. And the last neat feature of the rear seats is you can pull this tab right behind the center armrest, and this kind of folds forward, and now you have a center pass-through for longer items, skis, large pieces of wood, whatever you're transporting in your RS3 luxury sports sedan, you can put them right here through this hole. Another complaint that I've heard about the Audi RS3 is the trunk space, or lack thereof. You can access the trunk via this button right here on the driver's door, and it flies right open, or you can just push the button on the key fob. And you can see that it's not that big. It's only about 10 cubic feet. However, for what I was expecting out of the RS3, it actually seems to be larger than I expected. Unfortunately, I think the real drawback is the width of this opening from top to bottom. It's quite short of an opening, so you're going to have a hard time putting in wider items as far as the roof of the trunk and the floor of the trunk is concerned. If you look to the left side of the trunk, we have a little storage compartment with a 12-volt outlet above that. And above that, on the roof of the trunk, we have my favorite part, this awesome anchor-looking style bag hanger. I'm sure that will come in quite handy for many people. Looking under the false floor of the trunk, we also have some more storage along with our battery. I'm sure Audi put that there to help distribute some of the weight for better handling performance. And if you look on the roof of the trunk, you'll see that's where the subwoofer for the sound system is mounted. And the final complaint that I'd like to go over regarding the Audi RS3 is, of course, the price, which I cannot argue. It is a pretty expensive car. The starting MSRP for the RS3 back in 2018 was just around $60,000. This one I think came in above $65,000 with the options added on. However, you have to consider the age-old adage, sometimes you get what you pay for. And when you consider what you're getting in this small package, the performance and the handling and all the luxurious touches and materials and features and technology that you get, you are certainly getting a lot of car for your money. All right, people. Let's get the 2018 Audi RS3 out on the road for a spin. I can tell you right now, guys, this is surely going to be a fun one. I'm very excited to drive this car. And right now I have it in dynamic and manual mode with the shifter moved over to the right so I can shift it manually. Now I'm gonna open the sunroof to try to get a little bit more exhaust noise for you guys in here, but I don't want to roll all the windows down because then it's just too much wind interference, so we're gonna try this. So I know I said before, like, oh, I don't care that it doesn't have power seats. You know, this is a sports sedan. I'd rather have less weight, and I do still agree with that. However, it's kind of funny. Sitting in a car like this, I instinctively went to go move the seat with the power controls right on my left-hand side, and I was like, oh yeah, they're not there. It's just funny and something to note. You can clearly tell when you get into a car like this that this is a luxury car between all the materials and the finish. Everything just feels solid and looks great, that you're expected to have a feature like that, I guess, you know, subconsciously in your mind, but yeah, you don't in the RS3. I absolutely love how my gauge cluster looks with the power and torque outputs with the speedometer and tachometer right dead front and center. Just looks fantastic. The seats are also very comfortable. I know that they're pretty well bolstered. As you can see, they are quite hefty as far as the performance seat category is concerned, but they're not uncomfortable at all. I feel like I have plenty of wiggle room and I'm not like sucked in and unable to move anywhere in these seats. They're not like a full-blown race car. So Audi did a good job of designing these seats to be performance oriented, to hold you in place in a corner, but also not be too uncomfortable when you're just driving normally in traffic. Oh yeah. Now I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like there's a little bit of delay when you stomp the throttle. I feel like the car kind of registers for a second what you want it to do, and then the power kicks in. I don't know if it's turbo lag, I don't know if it's electronically limited throttle lag. I'm not necessarily a fan of how that's set up. When I hit the throttle, I want it to go, but when it does get going, whew, man, this thing just throws you back in your seat. 400 horsepower feels like a lot in this car. It's fun. Downshifts sound great. Yeah, like right now, see? I have my foot down the whole time, but once you get going, man, it is nice. There's also a really cool shift light setup in the tachometer. When you get around 4,500 RPMs, it goes from green, and then when you cross to 5, it goes yellow, 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 and then once you get right around 6,800, the max red line RPMs, it goes to flashing red, and that's when you know to shift. It is cool looking and expensive feeling. Definitely makes you feel like you are in the luxury sports sedan that you are. The RS3 also has speed sensing steering, and you can definitely feel it. At lower speeds, the steering gets a lot lighter, but at higher speeds, it gets a lot heavier. It's definitely noticeable, especially in dynamic mode. I wish it did come in a manual, as always, with every car I review, I wish it came in a manual. But I understand what Audi's trying to do. They're trying to focus on the dual clutch and get that fine-tuned in. And I also understand that not many people buy manuals anymore. It is what it is. It would have been really cool to see this in a manual, I know, but however, I will say that this 7-speed automatic dual clutch does a pretty good job. If you don't shift up right when it wants you to, it kind of bogs a little bit. So you have to really master that. That was a first gear pull, so maybe I just messed that up. I'm gonna try it again and we'll see how that goes. From first. There we go, that was better. Oh yeah. This thing's fun. This is a fun car. Thing rips. Another big complaint that I've heard from a lot of journalists is that the ride is stiff. I disagree. I don't think it's stiff at all. I think it rides pretty well for what it is. Oh yeah. It just hugs the road. Oh, it is fantastic. Braking is great. Handling is superb. I better slow down. Man, it just is glued to the road. I am hucking it around these corners, man. It is awesome. Feels absolutely fantastic. There we go. Driving a turbo 5-cylinder is very interesting. I would describe it as just like a little bit beefier of a 4-cylinder. I know that's kind of not really a great description, but that's the only way I can quite put my finger on it. The burbles though on the upshifts and downshifts are great. They're not too much, they're just right. Audi did a fantastic job engineering the engine and exhaust noises. Brakes work very well. That is fun. Now I'd like to take this thing on the track with some real tight corners going as fast as possible. That would be a true pleasure where you can see this car really shine. All right guys, that'll wrap up my little review of this awesome little 2018 Audi RS3. I had a ton of fun driving this awesome car. I hope you enjoyed watching it as well. Please go check out Tasca Ford of Seekonk. These guys are great to work with and they have awesome customer satisfaction ratings. They also have over 250 vehicles on their lot. They have a huge inventory right now. If you're in the South Coast, Massachusetts area, go check them out. I will put all of their contact information and website links in the description below. Thank you again to those guys so much for allowing me to review this car for you today. And let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of the RS3. Do you own one? Let me know your thoughts. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Otherwise, take care guys. Have a great day. Stay safe out there and I'll see you on the next review. Peace.